Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. I'm SirAshtown, and join with me today here for the top 8 is Katie and Clara. How are y'all doing today, Clara?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Great to be here. How are you doing, Katie?
I'm excited. We're in the final countdown. So this is what we've all been leading up to.
Yeah, it's been really exciting so far watching Kindle, aka Noimnot, playing in Charlie Collectible Show's Lorcana 10K. This is the top 8, and he is our 20 Lore Pro Community Pro, as voted by y'all, the 20 Lore Pro community. We did a poll in the 20 Lore Pro Discord before the tournament, and out of the 5 offered quote-unquote community pros, y'all chose Kindle to watch the entire time for Charlie's Collectible Show. So he has made it here into the top 8. He is playing against Tex, who's piloting a Amethyst Steel list, and all the top 8 decks are available. You can find them in the link in the description below. And also, if you want to learn more about Katie and Clara, who are going to be doing the analysis of today's video, you can find out more about them as well and follow them in the link in the description below. So just want to thank y'all again for watching today's video. We want to thank some of our sponsors before the game starts, like Ink Apparel. You can see their logo in the bottom right. Ink Apparel, with their artist Miguel Angel, did an amazing job with this artwork that you see on the playmat before you. We just gave them the concept and they came up with that beautiful art. So if you're looking for custom artwork to come to life, head on over to diamondinkaapparel.com and get your artwork today. We also want to thank GFQ Underground for printing those beautiful playmats that you see before you. Those playmats were given out to the top 4 players of the 10K tournament. GFQ Underground did an amazing job printing those playmats, and as you can see, the colors really pop so well. So thank you so much to GFQUnderground.com for printing those mats. And lastly, you can see in the bottom right a little QR code to the 20 Lore Pro Discord. If you're not a member, we're close to 6,000 members, so hope to see y'all there and to join in on the discussion of competitive Lorcana. So
Yeah, definitely worth the join, because there's lots of people who are willing to jump in and provide some really good advice. So it's definitely a great place to go if you're trying to perfect your deck or just meet other people trying to get better.
yeah, it's very exciting to have that many people who just want to help support and talk all things Lorcana.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm very excited that we're finally in the top 8. So as we see, Kendall is in the 4th seed, so he will be going first here. As we see it on the screen, we got Amethyst, so I'm very confident we're going to see some genie on genie challenge and questing here. Or anything you're hoping to see, Clara, looking at this matchup?
I want to see how those 2 decks that are similar in terms of color interact with each other in terms of answers and control. So that is definitely a thing to see.
Yeah, it's interesting because Steel and Ruby both have their own control type elements with removal. So it's interesting to see how low to the ground each deck. We already know Kendall's lineup, but seeing how Tex calibrates his deck, given the array of Steel songs. We're starting with a classic set pairing of, we've got the Magic Broom and Diablo. I love this Diablo so much. I think it's fun to have a little guy to just put pressure on early and kind of invest in hopefully getting a card at some point.
Definitely, and I believe we kind of have rock, paper, scissors in the 1-drops that we see in Amethyst. Turnabout's Follower, the Magic Broom, and Diablo, each of them having advantages and weaknesses. That is very interesting to see.
That's a rules question. When you're playing the Magic Broom, you use a snake to bounce it. Does that trigger the card draw, or is the fact that the snake banishes the Magic Broom, does that basically negate the ability to draw that card?
That is a really interesting question. So the way to understand this, for viewers at home is that Snake and Magic Broom both trigger when the snake enters play, and you decide the order and resolution of those effects into play. So let's say that you decide to draw a card. Then in that case, the broom is not into play, and then the snake triggers, and you must resolve it, resulting in the snake getting away. So it is preferable in any case to leave the snake into play by bouncing back the broom.
Got it. Okay, so you would have to banish the snake immediately to get that card draw.
Exactly.
Well, that is definitely bouncing is all about sequencing, which is something that can be the devil's in the details with that. Now we do see Texas definitely doing a more low to the ground. I mean, whenever you see a Maleficent 1 drop, that quest for 2, I'm already like, okay, so this is a more aggressive deck, because you don't necessarily see that Maleficent in people's decks as much anymore. So we definitely see between the Calhoun and the Maleficent that Tex is taking advantage of that lore gain that purple can be pretty good at doing. But we also see, no, I'm not using Sisu to sing Friends on the Other Side. It looks like twice. So he's definitely digging to do what Ruby does, which is get some heavy hitters later in the game. So Tex, I think, is hoping to get as much lore as early while he doesn't have a board presence. But meanwhile, we see Kendall slowly building up a handful of answers to all the questions that Tex is going to have later.
Yeah, definitely. And so I see the reasoning why we have a Sisu here. Because right now, Tex has like 4 or 5 cards in hand, so Sisu is a threat to almost any character that is into play. And that allows Noimnot to buy a little bit of time.
Yeah, it does. We know that Shift is so rough against these aggro decks. Now, Kendall doesn't have that ice block in his pocket like a Sapphire deck would, but like we see with this lineup, he doesn't necessarily need it because we know that if he does shift into that big Sisu-empowered sibling, he's going to have answers to several things. Now, we've seen Kendall use this Dragonfire. I laugh because it feels like Kendall has the magic. There's only one Dragonfire in his deck, but he finds a way to get it whenever he needs it, and he found it again. So the good news for Tex is it's the one Dragonfire, but I'm not sure if he knows that, but we know that he's done a lot of work with that in this tournament.
I'm not sure in that case if in the top 8, the top cut, the decks are open. So I am not aware, but usually in big tournaments, it is open deck list in the top cut. That's at least what we know about DLCs. But yeah, even so, I bet rumors were spreading about the only Dragonfire.
Yeah, it's like he's got one, but they probably think he has 8 because every game you see it. So to the enemy or to your opponent, it probably seems like Kendall somehow has every Dragonfire ever printed. Now he goes ahead and he Madame Medusa's the broom, which makes sense because he's trying to choke out Tex's hand because at this point he has 1, maybe 2 cards. So getting rid of any kind of card draw really works in Kendall's favor to slow down Tex and getting a wider board.
Yeah. But again, in Tex's last turn, we saw him playing the Madame Mim Fox to return the questing Maleficent back to their hand, and so resetting the board on the side. Then again, it is short-lived because of Madame Medusa.
I know. Madame Medusa bouncing is one of the more frustrating things. I think knowing that there is a famous saying in Disney Lorcana of dies to Medusa, which is can sometimes be the benchmark, is a card going to be good and see meta play or not. A lot of Texas cards are susceptible to Madame Medusa and her coming into play and getting rid of one of those 3 strength or less characters. Now, Tex is going wide, which can be scary against a deck like Kendall's because Kendall has not a lot to lose, and he has that Sisu. So between Sisu and Be Prepared, a wide board on Texas side can easily be humbled, as we just saw with that turn. But that being said, the benefit of having a low to the ground deck is after a turn like that, where you lose everything, you can start building up and just hope that your opponent doesn't have a second answer. A Kendall is down to 2 cards, it looks like. It's always hard. Oh, no, 3. He has 3. But he is questing before he plays anything, which is never a good feeling when you played your last couple cards. But we'll see. We don't know. The side card is prepare for Be Prepared. I think Tex is prepared for Be Prepared, and it is Be Prepared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would have been a mistake to let Gantu have a single turn of questing. That character quests for 4. Let's remember.
That's pretty rare to have a card that can get out 4 in one turn without any conditions. He quests for 4. There's nothing you have to do to meet that. But we do see a goat. When in doubt, at least goat's gonna get you 2 lores going in and out. So we'll see how long Kendall lets that card stay around. But Kendall's still digging for cards, playing a genie, triggering, or using the broom's trigger to draw another card, and then hard casting friends on the other side for 3 to draw 2 more cards. At this point, I do think that we don't have Texas full deck list but we do know that he's got Kendall, I think, has the upper hand being a Ruby deck, especially knowing that Tex seems to have a pretty small hand size right now. So Kendall can be patient right now because there's not a lot of things other than bouncing that can survive to the next turn against Kendall's deck. But he still has to be a little conservative because he does have those bouncing abilities that he's against, as we see here with the Fox.
Yeah, so really interesting thing here is as long as you're able to protect that goat, or if you have a Merlin Rabbit, you can bounce them back to hand to secure them and gain advantage either in lore or in card draw. It is preferable to be able to protect those cards so they can be used more and more.
Yeah, especially when you're getting down to the hand size that Tex is against, where he's really hoping the Chernobog's followers can make it to the next turn. You know, he needs cards because he's sitting here with less ink, less cards, less board presence than Kendall. So he's definitely at the disadvantage, especially with that Maui and Flynn combo that Kendall just put down.
Indeed. So the thing to remember is card draw is the name of the game, and where Amethyst Steel tends to slow down, it is the moment where Ruby Amethyst is able to speed up and gain control. So unless you have ways to draw and draw with Steel to match the pace of Ruby Amethyst, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and we see Tex knowing that there's nothing he can do to prevent that trigger at the start of next turn. So he's going into this next turn knowing that Flynn will get his 3 lore. He's probably going to quest with that Chernobog and be able to get a pretty hefty amount of lore this turn. But he should be able to survive. And as he doesn't wipe the board and he doesn't do... I guess a Sisu at this point wouldn't harm his board state. So he's still in it for right now.
Yeah, we see two Mr. Smees on Tech's side, so Noimnot must respond with something, any kind of removal.
Yeah, we do know he has one Lady Tremaine in there, which that would be spectacular because it's an easy choice, Smee or Smee. And we also know there should be another Madame Medusa. There might be another Madame Medusa in his hand. But we'll see what he plays here. Up. So that is the power of the accomplished mystic.
It works. We said any kind of a removal, but we forgot Belle in
Exactly.
certain circumstances can be just as good as a removal than the two ladies in chair.
Oh, that's rough. So yeah, I mean, he had the math to make it the next turn, but like we saw, accomplished mystic lets you move 3 damage counter or damage. I guess what's the term here? Counters?
Yeah, damage counters.
Okay, yes, there we go. I was like, it's damage something, but you get to move 3 to any character. In this case, that's me was the perfect target. So she heals and does removal if she needs to. So it's a very, very versatile card, which I think is very fun. And I'm glad she's found space in this meta.
Yeah, well, I think what is happening there is we have it all goes back to the sweet spot of most characters being played having either 3 willpower, 3 strength. So to be able to have an advantage from that, you need to have 4 willpower to be able to survive at the very least. So it gives the opportunity to have up to 3 damage on your characters or your opponent's character that Belle can then shift to other opposing characters. So the math works in that meta right now, but it could shift towards something different the next set. So it works for now.
Yes.
Let's take advantage of it.
I know. I always feel excited when a card that doesn't see a lot of play finally finds a place. I'm like, you did it. You made it. I think that's exciting to see. But then to your point, every set kind of makes us reevaluate, and we will see how she hangs on here. But we are seeing the power of Amethyst in this matchup. It's interesting to see the two sides of the Amethyst coin. Texas definitely trying to get in, really pairing strong against any kind of ramp deck where you're just questing and doing as much as you can as fast as possible, and then still having some removal in there, which can be helpful. While we also have Kendall's deck, which still has all the fun and tricks that a bounce package in Amethyst has, while having the oppressive removal, as we saw in the last round, where you have a lot of answers to a lot of problems later in the game.
Yeah, definitely. And now we have Tex in the driving seat, at least for the start of the game. And this is where the more aggressive play style is supposed to shine. So let's see how it goes for Tex.
Yeah, I love using the metaphor of, do you want to be the one doing the chasing or the one being chased? And I prefer the one being chased, and just saying, you have to deal with the problems I have. Because, usually when you're dealing with the problems on the other side of the board, you're not really doing your plan A. You're not, especially against a ramp deck who doesn't really have a lot of time to disrupt the plan. Now, Kendall, he has a fox. He has some answers, especially that brawl can probably come in big handy in this matchup. So he can afford a little bit of chasing, and he has some tools in his arsenal to deal with some early game shenanigans.
Yeah, that is true. Also, at the same time, a lot of the characters in Amethyst still have 3 strength or more. Especially in the beginning, the 2-drops, Calhoun and Mr. Smee have 3 strength. The Bats package have 3 strength, except Merlin Rabbit. and the genie also has 2 strength. So it's not necessarily a sweet spot for Brawl. It's like you're not playing Brawl on turn 3 necessarily.
No, and it could technically, we see him doing the 1-drop Maleficent, which, she goes for 2. She's not the most menacing thing in the world, but depending on how far of a lead Tex gets early on, that might tempt Kendall to use the break in case of emergency Brawl, depending on what kind of board state he is allowed to get out there. But you're right, he can't really do anything to a Snake, a Smee, or really any of the targets. Now, Calhoun, I believe, is she a 2-3 or a 3-2? I think she's a 3-2.
Yeah, Calhoun is she's a 3-2.
So yeah, so Brawl, not the strongest here, but still something he can keep in his back pocket. All right, so we are moving in here. They have altered their hands, and we'll see what he starts with. All right, so we do see that 1-drop Maleficent out there that is hopefully going to be able to be there for a little bit now without a bodyguard or without any kind of, I don't know. There's a lot of things that can deal with her. Even a magic broom could technically deal with her. Turnerbox follower would trade, so that wouldn't be the most ideal play, but it's not so hard to get rid of a 1/1.
Question is, should we trade in the event that Maleficent is exerted? Should we trade with the Turnerbox follower?
I guess it all depends on what your hand is looking like. If Kendall doesn't have a lot of inkables or any kind of early answers, I guess I'd be more tempted to put a stop to it. But I don't know. It's kind of how bad do you want that card draw?
Yeah, that is true.
Because sometimes I know in Ruby Amethyst, you get a hand and you see a Maui, you see a Tremaine, you see a Be Prepared. All great cards. Not so great the first 4-5 turns. So it can be a tricky deck where when you get your uninkables and those really powerful endgame cards where you get a little stressed because you're like, okay, I'll be good as long as I can live to that turn. In this case, we do see him make that trade. So for him, he's saying, you know what? I don't want to see you get that lore. I'm not afraid of your Magic Room or Diablo. So, and we see that Flynn possibly setting up for Sisu, which would be pretty good in this matchup, knowing that Tex may have a good hand size. I'm not sure if he has a dock in his deck, which would make him want to empty his hand size or not. Oh, he answered my question. So there we see the dock.
This is a dock?
Is it? I guess it's hard. The dwarfs do have a very similar. It looks like a 3-letter word. So
yeah,
so
it's dock.
So dock is kind of interesting because dock kind of changes your play style where suddenly you're poor dock. We spoke about how Brawl doesn't have a ton of things to do. Well, he can get rid of that dock, unfortunately. But dock does kind of change your play style because suddenly you're not as afraid of having an empty hand because then you technically, if he is around, can draw 2 cards at the end of your turn to kind of keep replenishing your hand size. But in this case, dock did not get to stay around to the next turn.
Ooh,
That being said,
okay,
Texas.
Gantu.
Yeah, Texas got all the good cards here on the curve here because that, like you said, that Gantu. You don't want that for lore. Oh, it's that Dragonfire. He is so good at finding it. We said, "Ooh, what is he gonna do?" And he said, "I have an answer. It's right here. It's the Dragonfire that I keep with me at all times."
It's like you're telling yourself, well, yeah, the Gimple is great. Turn 5, I can play my Gantu. I'm protected against Maui. Elsa maybe does something, but not so much.
Yeah, and then Kendall has that single magic Dragonfire that is really, I think, the VIP in his deck for me right now, because it always seems to come when we say, but what is he going to do? So in this case, he has Madame Medusa, which is an excellent counter to Genie, knowing that Genie is a 2/4, so Madame Medusa easily takes rid of one of those Genies.
Yeah, even so, Noimnot does not have a single evasive character. So Genie, unless there's a direct removal, is able to just quest and quest for at least one turn or two.
Now, Tex found a very valuable card going into turn 7 against Ruby. He did go ahead and play that Pete. So he says, okay, my board should be able to survive. Be prepared. If he has one in hand.
Oh, that Maui's Fisher comes in handy because
Exactly.
the piece of force strength, just so efficient.
It is. It's funny saying that we talk about how, he doesn't have evasive, and then Kendall's like, but do I not have evasive? And he pulled out the Maui fishhook. So Kendall's built his deck to really have some versatile answers to the problems in the meta. He only has one, but he's finding it.
Well, this is what you need, because the presence of evasive grows ever stronger in this set, and it is important to have answers to write it. And it can't be always like the brawls, the Sissus. You must be creative. Unless you just have to be prepared. That's
yeah. When in doubt, just wipe the board. Which, Tex is at a very great point right now. He doesn't have a ton of cards, but he has enough ink, and he just needs 3 more lore, which, as we know, it's not impossible. But in this case, he doesn't have a lot he can play other than just one Diablo. And go, okay, I hope I top deck a goat and you let my Diablo win or survive to the next turn. Or even worst case scenario, at least that Diablo should be able to get him 1 more card.
Yeah, and being able to draw at least a goat would be like so backbreaking here for Kendall.
Yes. And he doesn't have a goat, but he has a castle, which is one you don't see all the time. Lately, people have kind of been moving away from the castle and Bell's Library, which was kind of a standard in the past 2 metas. But in this case, he puts the Diablo on the Bell's Library, or not Bell's Library, I'm so sorry. Queen's Castle. Or actually, that might be the Bell's Library. My goodness. I corrected myself without knowing it. But either way, he's hoping to get some card draw there. Or is it the castle? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's castle.
And it's gone. He didn't let us think about it too long. So he's not letting Tex draw any cards off that Diablo, which is okay because he gets to 19 and we know he only needs 1 more lore. So if he can top deck a goat, he cannot. And that's okay because Kendall's still at 2. He's at 19. It's not comfortable, but it's not the worst case scenario for Amethyst to be in this position.
Yeah, it's pretty... I don't want to say it's over, but you got to respond to everything.
Yes, you have to have an answer every turn and hope that they never draw any goats, which is, as you know, impossible to make the person never draw a goat, especially if they still have some in their deck.
That Diablo.
Yeah, so he did go ahead and draw off of that Diablo, but he doesn't play anything this turn. Did he just pass his turn? Oh no, Candle's still on his turn. Sorry. He went ahead and banished both the Diablo and the Magic Broom with the Elsa.
So interesting thing here, Kendall preferred to return the Elsa back to hand.
I think because he's hoping to exert whatever he plays and possibly not let it quest. Because I mean, that's his only hope right now is, well, not only hope, but that is a play, is to use Elsa to exert something in and get rid of it. And then, but in this case, he has 2, so you have to remove both because he has that Maleficent and Mystery Speed on the board. So Elsa alone cannot do it unless he can bounce it twice, which I do not think he has the ink to do that. No, he has 8 ink.
With 8 ink, Uh,
Oh, you see him
that's
here.
pretty much. Did we foresee something in Kendall's hand?
Is it a be prepared?
Is he prepared?
Yeah, that's why he quested. He's like, no, because yeah, it's that tricky thing where he knows he has to have an answer for both of those cards. We know he has an Elsa, which could be the answer if he only plays one card next turn, assuming it's not a goat. But he is going to go ahead and wipe the board and hope for no goats.
Yeah, but with each turn, the probability of getting a goat goes increasing.
Yeah, now he's doing an audit. He's like, okay, did I have any other play? We see one at least. Certainly not all fours in his discard.
What could be?
If you don't have a goat, the next best thing.
Yeah, the next best thing.
So yeah, as we said, that Kendall's like, I have to take a walk. That way, because he was doing it. He was doing what he needed to do to answer each turn. But can you do that every turn when your opponent's at 19 and has goats and roses? And the answer is unfortunately no. So we are going to round 3, which is why I always like it when we're in the top cut and we're going to round 3. I'm sure players don't love it because you'd like to just win 2 and move on, but it is, as a viewer, much more interesting when you go to game 3.
Oh yeah, as a player, I can say that I'm not too thrilled when I must do game 3.
Yeah, that's not plan A.
I like to do. I like to have my first 2 games won in the match.
Yeah, and especially with a deck like Texas, Texas had to go first, or sorry, he had to go second first, which is a weird thing to say. He was on the play, rather, or on the draw, the first go, which on an aggro deck, you know, it's nice to have the element of surprise. It's nice to go first. So it is kind of unfortunate that Tex seems to have an aggro deck, but did not get to go first to get that kind of momentum and possibly start with a win. But as we see, it still worked out. He got win in game 2.
Let's remember that we're talking about the top cut. So top 8, I'll be happy just to make top 8, actually. So
that's true. At this point, you're like, I'm here. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to do an anxiety shuffle, which I think everyone can relate to I'm going to shuffle my deck until I know it works well, which is what we see here. When in doubt, shuffle one more time. Although I have the thing in the back of my head where I'm like, what if I accidentally put the cards back in order because I shuffled too much, which probably didn't happen, but you never know.
Let's just imagine the worst nightmare of putting all the play sets together and being like, yeah, it's a bit awkward. Like I have the 4 goats in my opening hand and 3 ducks. Yeah.
Yeah, the only time I'd want a full play set of something in my opening hand is I'd be okay with, 3 daisies or something like that. So we got a little...
I'm skipping ahead for us.
Awesome. Okay, so here we are. I was like, what is this? Yeah, Kendall's like, I will excuse myself. But yeah, so we are here. So I thought we were already in the middle of the game. I was like, what's happening? But
yeah.
But we're here.
3 daisies. Wow.
Yeah, 3 daisies is okay. I'll take 3 daisies. And as long as the rest are inkable, that is a fun problem to have. Assuming you're not going against a deck that has all characters, which is not ideal. But I have been seeing in this meta, knowing that Sapphire, or rather, Emerald has so many cards, and we're not seeing an Emerald right now, but we're starting to see most cards have a secret action with them. So I'm starting to see it's interesting that there's some decks that are like, well, I don't need actions anymore because my cards are actions. So it is very interesting moving into some decks where they don't need songs, they don't need actions, they don't need locations. Their characters do the heavy lifting. I find that's very prevalent in Amethyst Emerald. Or rather, more
personally, I really like 100% character decks. It's just amazing to have characters fill out the role of actions that you can find in the wild.
It's it feels efficient. It feels like you're able to it's just more fun when I know that my characters are doing so much, especially when the effect comes in on play and they're getting to do all sorts of mischievous things. Because as we know, actions, sometimes they can be slow. They slow down your play. Sometimes you have to, like, for example, when we see Kendall have to play a brawl, he doesn't get to play a character that turn. So actions are powerful. Dragonfire is great, but it'd be better if there was a song called Dragonfire, or your character did Dragonfire, as we see with Maleficent Dragon.
There a character that does that. Maleficent Dragon. Here we go.
Yeah, Kendall's not running her, but I do like that sometimes you still get to see a nice Maleficent Dragon. I particularly love her in a Mufasa roulette deck. I think that is so fun when you think, okay, I'll get rid of that Mufasa betrayed leader, and then suddenly they flip over Maleficent, who then banishes your character. I think that is the most mischievous of all plays and the most painful.
Yeah, that was the dream back in chapter 3 for with the red Fasa deck. Just flip off that Maleficent Dragon off the top.
Oh,
Only if there could be some kind of way to control the top of your deck, but
I know.
it is an amethyst.
Yeah, I mean, Ursula's Cauldron briefly had that ability where you could at least look and say if you want it, but you really can't control it. It's just kind of just to say, oh, yes, maybe. So it's more not ideal, but, new cards are coming out all the time. So maybe we will get some cards that let you have more control over that top portion of your deck. So we do know that Kendall is going first, which Kendall's probably pretty happy about right now, knowing what deck he's going against.
Yeah, you just need to establish your plan and have cards that go along that plan to control the more aggressive deck.
Exactly. So I think he's definitely looking for, looking at his deck list, knowing that his usual line of play is he's definitely been loving the Flynn into a Sisu, Emboldened Warrior. In this case, do you think there's anything he'll play differently, knowing that he really needs to put a stop to Texas aggro curve?
I would say not really.
Yeah.
Because Kendall is plays first, so is playing turn 2 first against a turn 1 that could be either Maleficent, Diablo, Chernobog's Follower, or Broom. The only thing that could hurt is like Chernobog's Follower, but that is if their Flynn is ever exerted, and that won't happen.
Exactly. We know that we've seen Tex have one Elsa, but Elsa's a turn 5, so Flynn is sitting pretty comfortable. Now we do know he runs a Fire the Cannons as well, so that is technically.
Fire the Cannon is really efficient.
And a Befuddle. Wow. You don't get to see Befuddle against Ruby Amethyst every day.
No, that is true. I didn't see if there was. Yeah, we had the Madame Snake played, returning the broom back to hand. So Befuddle was really efficient there because everything in the first 2 turns were blown away.
Yeah, so it's a nice little tempo play to slow down Kendall's ideal card draw plan. And we see him play down a crab here, which normally a crab is there to pump something up, but in this case, it's just coming in and looking pretty and maybe getting bounced out later.
Yeah, probably Tex didn't have anything else to play. I would have considered like any 2-drop like Calhoun or Mr. Smee instead of playing the crab at that moment. But depends on what you have in hand.
Exactly. You're just trying to survive and play something. Before the board wipe starts, it's better to have something better than nothing most of the time. I don't know. It's hard to say because we know he has the magical dragonfire that can come in at any time.
That magical dragonfire.
I know. Will we see it one more time? I don't know.
One more time.
I know. So he is going to use that turn of Vox Follower to draw a card, which is probably the right call, knowing that Kendall could say there's many ways to deal with that turn of Vox Follower. And he's going to ink one and play a genie. So we got the genie shit standoff here.
Okay, so yeah, playing a genie when the opponent has a genie already in play and is on the play is a dangerous thing to do, but also at the same time necessary, because as you can see, the else on the following turn allows a clean removal of the genie by challenging it with the genie and Elsa. And that hurts.
Yeah, and it is. He did it. He said, I will do exactly what you just suggested. It sounds wonderful.
That's a wonderful idea, Clara.
Yeah. So he did go ahead and put 2 on the genie and then play that Elsa and put 2 more, which is all you need to send the genie to the discard pile. And now it's just that crab, which is, you don't want a crab by himself on the board. He is not so great by himself. But he is great with that card, which is the fox, which is now a 7/3, but does trade with that Sisu. Which is something that could be good for trying to prevent that shift line if he's going to go wide again.
Especially when if you want to start putting 2 strike or less characters into play, you gotta have some insurance policy against that legendary Sisu. One thing I want to point out is the wall of evasive that Kendall has right now. That hurts to see that as the opponent here attacks. Because unless you have some ways to deal with that board, it is really difficult to get back the advantage from there.
Yeah, I talked about like, I don't mind having 3 daisies. And the reason I don't is because sometimes you have those cards where you're like, okay, I can answer 1 card. And then you see another one, you're like, maybe I can do 2. And then you're like, okay, 3 evasives, that's right out. So right now he has 2 evasives, but once you have those problems, you usually have 1 answer. But can you have that many answers in a row? And in Texas deck, it is definitely harder to have multiple answers to evasives.
Yeah, unless you have Elsa's. But even then, in that case, having Elsa could help just slow down Kendall just a bit by removing the genie. But then after, it's kind of a war between the characters that we have, the Elsas. So I don't believe it is quite the play.
No, it's gonna be hard. Texas definitely up against not a favorable uphill climb, knowing what Kendall has in his deck, and I think I saw a Dragonfire. So I don't know. Now, no, I didn't. Maybe I didn't. I'm psyching myself.
Yeah, we see Dragonfires everywhere now.
I know. I'm like, it's everywhere. They all have them.
But for real, right now, we have 2 genies in play, and that is strong.
It is, especially knowing that he lost his genie. He has 2 little Diablos that don't do a lot, and by don't do a lot, they don't hit for anything. And then we have a fox who cannot reach those evasive genies. So he did find a genie.
Yeah, let's hope for Tex that that genie survives, because it gives the opportunity to just maybe control the board a bit.
Yeah, and it's something where he knows that Kendall's board is getting wide. So when your Ruby opponent has a wide board, suddenly you become a little less like, would they be prepared? They don't want to lose their 2 evasives that are questing and hard to reach. So Tex is probably feeling a little bit more comfortable with his wider board right now, but still knowing that all it takes is a Sisu to take out 3 of his 4 characters.
Yeah, I don't believe I would use Be Prepared on that board, especially because of the 2 Diablos. It would mean that I'll be at disadvantage in terms of recovery, and that's not something I want after using Be Prepared.
Absolutely. So he is going to go ahead and do the big Sisu. So Kendall can't hear us because this is in the past and not live, but it does feel like he's connected with when you say the only thing he could do that would be really good is this one thing, and he's like, okay, I'll do it because he only has 1 Sisu in his deck, but he did go ahead and find it, which was the perfect answer here. Now he's sitting at game because he does have more than 5 on board. Oh. And that was enough with that big Sisu. Yeah, so I guess we definitely saw the power of having multiple evasives in play, especially multiple evasives that, draw and quest for 2. It's not a fun thing to be against, but Tex he made it to the top 8 with it's not Amethyst Steel is sometimes people call an off-meta deck. I'm always excited to see it, especially making the top 8, because it is a very exciting deck list, and I love to see it have success. So a big congratulations to Tex for making the top 8, and then a congratulations to Kendall, because we're about to see him go to the final 4, which means he got a playmat, which we talked about at the beginning. That's enough for me.
Well, thank y'all so much for being here today with 20 Lore Pro as we are watching Noimnot, our 20 Lore Pro Community Pro, compete in Charlie's Collectible Show's Lorcana 10K. Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you, Clara. Really appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us do the presentation here.
Yeah, we really appreciate y'all's analysis and your commentary, and it's been a pleasure to have y'all here. We're going to head into the top 4 here in the next video with Kendall, and we'll see him play against DeCandio, piloting his Amber Steel Diggy Diggy Hole deck. So stay tuned for that video. It'll be coming up next. And again, if you want to follow and find out more about Katie and Clara, you can find their socials and their links in the description below. Along with Kendall, he has a player guide to Ruby Amethyst available to the community. That will be linked down below, along with his team of other Lorcana players, Team Labyrinth. They also make content here on YouTube, and we'll have their channel linked below. So again, thank y'all so much for watching today, and we will see y'all in the next video.